Why don't we check out some PulseChain prices with where we're at right now? If you have anything you want to pull up, Axis,
Oh yeah,
taking
this is
a
my
look.
favorite stuff to look at.
Yeah,
I'm a holder.
I am too. Yeah, I have a little bit of PulseChain.
A little bit, yeah.
I think Ewok might have a little
Let me
as
just look in
well.
my wallet here. Yeah, a little bit. Okay.
Yeah,
For a
Little
broke
bit.
boy, more like rich boy crypto.
yeah, exactly. Let's hope so. But yeah, basically looking at PulseChain, 40%, 42% below SAC right now. We have PulseX about 76% below. It's set
Wow,
up
I
right
didn't even
now.
know that was that far down.
Yeah, it's
Pulse X.
crazy. Yeah,
Because I've been
PulseX
only
is
been
just
watching these ratios, right? So like on the ratio, look how good that looks. In
yes,
terms of Pulse,
very
like
strong.
Pulse X is looking great. You know, it's not down here in the dumps like it was last year. You know, so
Yeah.
let's start with Pulse. I drew this for the guys today. I was like, look, this is the point of the moment of truth. I want a double bottom right here at the bottom of this channel that was set up from the very start point. Switch that to yellow so it's brighter. From very beginning to the double bottom here last September, right after the SEC crash, September, August. That's what I want to see here. I want to see this level protected, and then we bounce hard off this level. And, you know, Pulse Chain Conference coming up, that's bullish. I want to see a bounce here. And I think that's possible? Well, the indicators are saying that it's a possibility. We're starting to see like some sideways and positive slope on the MACD. And, you know, the amount of red on the MACD and these MACD prints on these bars are few and far between at this point. We're kind of just going flat, which is signaling that the market is stabilizing here. RSI, it did make the lowest level since the SEC crash. I think this would be a good level to see a higher low double bottom reversal. And so that's kind of what I'm looking for here is like a bounce here in the next day or two on the RSI and see some strength come back into the market. And a place where the bulls are going to put their foot in the sand and hold down the fort. And maybe come up here and test this mid-band. And then on the volatility, you can see that the volatility is getting squeezed down into this channel like a pressure cooker. And I would expect like one final flush here and then a pop to the upside. And so the thing about volatility is, though, you never know the direction.
Right.
But you just know that it's squeezing and getting ready to make a move. So there's definitely a clear indicator here that something's brewing for sure on the volatility. And if you zoom back out, you can see that this is significant insofar as like we had our highs from the January pumpage, and then we've just been consolidating in terms of volatility ever since. So with all that in mind, guys, to me it looks like we're going to try to at least try to stabilize and create support and hold this trend line. Diagonals are the least important, and that's something to keep in mind here. But if we just draw horizontal level here, this is still protecting that level that was where we double bottomed around right after liquid loans launched. And then here's where Richard said, I'm going to fight for your rights in January. And so we just tested it, and we're actually catching a bid here coming into this level. And you can see it by the hammer that's printing currently on the daily. And so I would expect that, you know, this level probably holds. You know, I want that to happen. I don't want to see Pulse Chain hit new lows. I don't want to see it lose this like 0.0005 level, half SAC rate. I want to see that hold. So,
Right.
all right, Pulse Chain bulls, get in there and start buying.
You know, it's funny. I was just watching the price action like a hawk earlier today because I had nothing better to do for about an hour. And, you know, you were kind of seeing that like a couple hours before we went on air here. I want to say maybe like 3 p.m. Eastern time or something. I don't know, sometime this afternoon, we started to see kind of a bigger dip. And then I saw right when we did get to that 5.5 area or so, we just had a hard stop and now we're at 5.8. And that's all that happened in the last 2 hours. I saw that pretty aggressively. Like you can see people are coming in there and selling off certain areas. Yeah. Defending.
Yeah. So you made me want to go into the 15-minute. I don't usually come down this
super
small.
degen. Yeah.
But look, there's clearly an attempt here because you can see it in the volume signatures. Actually, let me do an hourly. Clean this up a little bit. So the hourly. Look at the volume signatures. So there was an attempted reversal here around 406 to 4064. That broke down for it's just that final leg low. I'm pretty sure that's where Nick Cherry got out. Nick Cherry and friends
Mm.
sold out for 3 million. But you can see in
Yeah.
the volume signature here, the big green volume that came in. And so it took less green volume here and here to double bottom and stop it in its tracks. And then we got some upward momentum. And this is just like that secondary sell-off wave that comes with something like this. And
Right.
now again, the green volume signature is coming in. So it's clear that these levels are being defended and protected here on the hourly for sure. And so unless some big whale comes in and just deliberately wants to hurt the project or the price chart, and it's not met with big support, we could make new lows, but it's unlikely at this point based on these volume signatures. So in these hourly, again, you only come in here to just look at stuff like that, and then you gotta get out of here because you're gonna get you'll get stuck in there and lost.
Right. Right.
Sucks you in.
It does.
Yeah. So
Ewok,
where do you
go
think
ahead.
well, I was just going to say, where do you think that ratio between PulseX evens out at?
Right on cue. So let's look at PulseX and Pulse ratio. I mean, it's been holding this midline of this channel now for since 100. It was 110 days last I looked. We're at January 13th. It's been 115 days, and yeah, it's protected. So to me, this is looking strong. It looks like it's on this kind of a curve, and it looks to me that PulseChain is going to lose ground to PulseX. PulseX is actually going to try to come up here and go 2 to 1. It's like around 2.3 to 1 or something right here, 2.4 to 1. But we're going to get up there around that 2 to 1, and I think that's fair value probably. It's actually a little bit probably undervalued here, and so I think it'd be appropriate to get up into that range and start trying to flip that level of support for the ratio.
So do you think it's undervalued because there were about 2.5 to 3 times the amount of sacrificers for PulseX? So that's got to have
Definitely. That was my
a
theory
little bit
for a
of
long
influence.
time.
Yeah.
That was my theory for a long time, and that's all played out now. And so I think going into 6 months from now, when good stuff starts to happen for PulseChain, and you could maybe get upgrades for PulseX, you're going to see smart money start to rotate some of their positions in. I know the Fire Whale is famous and notorious for flipping his entire PulseChain bag into PulseX when it was down here at 4 to 1. And so you see how that worked out for him. And so I wouldn't be surprised to see other people come in and copy that strategy here at this level that's now being defended. Because I think ultimately there is possibility that at some point this cycle, PulseX can go 1 to 1 with Pulse, at some point. I don't see it's not a non-zero chance. That PulseX comes all the way up here, 140%, 2.4x gains over Pulse and goes to parity with it. Right. If you're getting new upgrades to PulseX like every month or every 2 weeks or something, or Richard streaming, and it's a lot of hypotheticals, and it may not even take all those to line up, but just to see this 2 to 1 hold, so then that would put us in a whole new zone, and boom, this would be our new chart data. We'd be coming up here and we'd be playing around, chopping around on here now, and then even if it broke down mid-cycle and then got back up, by the end of, if this cycle is going into 2026, guys, that's way out here. That's a lot of time.
It's a long way.
It's a long ways from now. That where PulseX can continue to grind up, against the ratio, and then peak up here at parity or even overshoot it. Like, we have seen nothing yet, and I would not rule anything out. And the reason why is because of what happened to Ink, guys. Like, Ink. Look at this chart, man. This is Ink against the dollar, and it's just like, why would you buy this?
Zen? Oh,
yeah. Like, why would you buy this chart, right? And when it launched here, like based off of what we saw on testnet, I was saying, Ink could go to $1,000 a cycle. I said it publicly inside of Frank Polancic's private mastermind group right after launch, and then when we got down here, I started to lose a little bit of faith that we could even get back to $10. And now, you zoom ahead a couple months, and this little pump here to this level, that was $10.26. And so it looks kind of like not so good here. But if I flip log, guys, like we've done half the work already. We've already hit halfway back up, And you know what else is looking like this is BBC, 9-inch incentive token. But so, you know, the dollar chart here, it's getting defended. It needs to hold, I would say it needs to hold these levels here to kind of prove that Ink's got staying power for this part of the cycle. And that Hex doesn't take the lead for a while, which has been another thesis that I've been throwing around. I think what I want to remind everyone is like each coin is going to take a turn being the underdog, and each coin will catch up at some point because the three of them will be expensive, and then the one thing is always going to be cheaper than the other three, and so there will be a contrarian trade there for people to pile into. And so then this is the dollar. Now let me flip this to pulse ratio. Let's see what we got here. So we did this similar pattern once before. Look at how clean this sideways structure was in here. It was very tight, consolidated price action where the offsides market was forced to accumulate the new range because the yields were so good. Now you're getting the same thing again, but on a bigger scale.
Yeah.
And here's your new range. And so if you were farming Ink during this time frame, you want to see the sideways price action because this means that you're just making money every day, and you're not getting impermanent loss. And this can only hold up for so long at such a high APR before other people see that trade and want to be a part of it, and then they're going to mark it up. And because the way the liquidity is set up between Ink, Pulse, and PulseX, Pulse and PulseX are so deep and heavy that even if you take your Ink and you dump it into Pulse, PulseX, or Hex, either Ink's gonna just kind of chop and go sideways, and Hex will pump a little bit more, or Ink will just kind of like fall a little bit, but then Pulse and PulseX will get pumped up a little more. But because it's imbalance in the ratio where there's less Ink to way more Pulse and PulseX, by dumping the little thing into the big pot moves up a little bit, and so any downside is mitigated with equal and opposite reaction of force that pushes it back up because of it's like a counterbalance. It would be different if the Ink rewards was getting dumped into stables and crossing the chain, and that would be like a leaky hole on a ship that's letting water in. But in the case of like Ink rewards being dumped into the other three coins, it's actually bullish for the ecosystem.